Live in the studio is Peter Salisbury, who's a Yemen analyst at the Chatham House think tank. Peter, welcome to the programme. So what's your assessment of what's happening here? This cessation of hostilities has not ceased, has it? I mean, it's just still going on.
So what we're hearing is that John Kerry flew into the region with assurances from Saudi Arabia that it had Hadi under control, as it were, that they would be able to get him to agree to this cessation of hostilities, to this ceasefire, and that all he really needed to do was to get the Houthis and the Saleh guys to agree to the ceasefire. What's happened is he's gone in, he's spoken to representatives of the Houthis and loyalists of former President Saleh. He's announced the ceasefire effectively unilaterally, and then the government of Yemen has come out and said, we will not take part in the ceasefire. And just before I came on, a spokesman for the Saudi military said that they would continue to back military activities. So I'm speaking to people in Yemen. Just as I arrived at the studio tonight, they say fighting in some parts of the country has intensified. If anything, airstrikes continue, so it's business as usual, really.
So it's just a complete mess?
Yeah, more or less. This is one of these things where you could argue that with Kerry on his way out, there's a sense that no one really needs to listen to him. And I'd imagine that from the government of Yemen perspective, they think that they can get a better deal under the new president.
So you're saying that they're biding their time in that case, waiting until January when the transition of the presidency takes place in the United States, and then see what happens then, just wait for the lie of the land to transpire at that point.
The UN proposal for a peace deal at the moment is effectively something that Kerry himself put together, and it calls for the president to sack his current vice president, who he's fairly close with, to replace him with someone agreeable to everyone involved in the war, and effectively step to one side and let the new vice president run things from there on out. He's not very keen on relinquishing power, and so I'd imagine that for him, he's hopeful that come January, when Trump comes in, he will want to be closer with the Saudis. He will not be very interested in a peace deal in Yemen either way, and that Hadi will have more leverage or will be able to get a better deal out of the whole thing.
All right, so assuming that this current status quo, which is ongoing fighting, continues until next year, where do we see a glimmer of light for a resolution?
I think it's really difficult to see hope. People on the ground, people inside Yemen are exhausted. Ordinary Yemenis in areas where there is fighting want an end to the combat as soon as is humanly possible. But the problem, as with all of these regional conflicts, is first that the key players still think that they can eke out a victory or that they can gain a little bit of an edge in a peace deal, so they don't want to sign up yet. And at one and the same time, there are people who are benefiting from this, and there are regional powers involved who are interested in a wider geopolitical game. So for the average Yemeni, it's really bad news, but for the guys at the top, there's still some kind of advantage to be sought.
And if John Kerry was hopeful of any kind of legacy, it doesn't look like that's going to happen.
That's quite right. It would appear that Kerry saw Yemen as a potential quick win coming towards the end of the administration, somewhere where the US thought that it had leverage because of the amount of US weapons being used by the Saudi-led coalition. He thought that maybe he would be able to put pressure on the Saudis to come to some kind of deal, and it's looking increasingly clear that that's just not the case.
All right. Peter Salisbury, thanks very much indeed. Appreciate you coming in. Thanks very much. Thank you.